I think the biggest thing that holds people back is they don't know what they would do if they didn't have this thing. They've never explored life enough. They've never tried enough new things. They've never, I think if you ask a lot of people even what their hobby is, they'll tell you they don't really have one. It's watching TV or something. So I think a lot of this is learning to just explore the world around you. And I tell a lot of people, I'm like, what was fun as a kid? What did you do as a kid that you really just had a good time with?
Today's episode is brought to you by Buzzsprout. I've tried a lot of podcast hosting solutions. Most of them charge you by the size of your file. This causes podcasters to compress our files and shrink them to fit our plan. When I was starting out, this led me to release some truly terrible episodes. Buzzsprout doesn't do that. They treat podcasters right, and the price? Well, it's awesome. See what I mean at servermaster.com/Buzzsprout.
Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Serve No Master Podcast, where you'll learn how to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Serve No Master podcast. We have an amazing guest today with Donnie, who's absolutely awesome, and he's going to tell us a lot of his story from being in the military all the way starting his own business, even living on a farm. There's a lot of cool things we're going to learn, and especially going to dive into really how to find that key focus that's going to help us to stay the course so we go from idea all the way to success. Thank you so much for being here, Donnie.
Jonathan, my honor, brother. Looking forward to hanging out, man. I'm digging that blue background you got going on there, man. It's pretty sassy. Keep it up.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm obsessed with lighting. I'm always playing around with the lighting in the background and different ideas because it's my new hobby, building lights, moving stuff around. So in every video, the lighting is actually different in the background for those who watch the video versions of my content. What I'd love to dive into with you really is, I'd like to start with your journey because a lot of people, they either do 4 years in the military or they do the full 20, sometimes the 25. And the transition to civilian life, for a lot of people, they discover you develop these specific skills in the military, and then there's not a specific corollary in civilian life. So what's that transition like? Because we do have a lot of military listeners.
Yeah, for sure. So I only did 4 and ran like hell. When my 4th year came up, I didn't even contemplate, look at, or even think about re-enlisting. For me, though, the transition was stupid simple. I will tell you that I did a little bit of heating and air conditioning before I went in, and when I got out, my best friend and his old man were running a heating and air conditioning company, so I went straight to work for them right after. But I can tell you a lot of my buddies, when they got out, they really had a tough time transitioning because they had nothing to go back to, no jobs, no anything, and, the military damn sure doesn't prepare you to go from sticking around with 30 dudes for, 4 years on end to now you're out on your own without all those people around. So skill set wise, I went in the Marine Corps with a chip on my shoulder. I came out with it only half of it left. And I think, the biggest thing the Marine Corps did for me was just help me grow up a little bit, because if you would have talked to my parents, they would have told you I would have probably ended up in jail or prison if I would have not gotten my head straight.
Do you think it's possible for people who are in the military currently to start building that side business? There's this whole trend of a side hustle, a new name for the same thing, of you start building your hobby business. Is it possible to do that while you're already in the military, or is it your bandwidth so much taken up that you have to wait till you're out and then try to figure things out?
Oh, I think you'd be dumb not to, period, because there's always downtimes. It may not be downtime like you want it, but there's always some way to escape, whether it's middle of the night and likes. Even when I was in, computers, just to show you my age a little bit, computers were really just starting to come around. And there were several guys that were already figuring out how to do some sort of things online. In this day and age, man, you need a phone, you need a computer and internet access, and you can create damn near anything you want. It's if you want to go with a more physical item, then things get a little bit more tricky. But yeah, no, you should 100% start doing something while in. I wish I had.
I'm really a big believer in preparing for the surprise. A lot of people, they're like, no, I work at a really big company. Nothing could ever happen. 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, where do you work? They're like Lehman Brothers. They're gone, right? These really big companies, it doesn't matter. And it's the same thing, I think, in the military. You can't be in the military forever. you can't be into your 70s. Very few people last that long. I don't think it's very common. But really, we often think what I have now is all I should focus on. And I see it a lot in the civilian world where people have a job and they go, well, as long as I don't do anything wrong, I'll never get fired. This term will never end. And the truth is, most people lose their jobs because of something they didn't do. Company gets downsized. The CEO is into private planes. Right now, while recording this, we're seeing this downfall of all these like multi-billion-dollar crypto companies. And you're like, what happened? And they all loan money to each other. And it's just
Right.
like, your boss loaned money to someone they thought was cool. That person loaned money to someone else, and they loaned it like 5 ways down the tree to someone who's like, I don't know what to do with this money. Sorry, I kept it. I lost it. I invested in something crazy. And then all these companies are collapsing, like billions of dollars of wealth is disappearing every day, starting with something that was called a stable coin. So, and all the people that work at all these companies losing their jobs, not their fault. In the 2008 crisis, we saw companies go, oh, we have to downsize 10% of the people in your department. Nothing you can do. It's not your fault, even if you're doing a great job. And I think that's why I'm such a believer in taking proactivity, even if it's your career, right? Like you have these opportunities in the military and civilian life to upskill or learn an additional skill so that when you transition to another department or kind of do something else, or you can get yourself a promotion. I think the most difficult path, unfortunately, is a lot of people are passive. They go, I'm going to wait for my boss to give me a promotion when he thinks I'm ready. That's the part that like I always struggle with, is that the proactiveness is really the name of the game. So you seem like you grabbed the bull by the horns. You've done a lot of really cool things. Where did that kind of energy come from for you to say, I'm going to take control of my destiny?
I want to back up 2 seconds to something you said about, the passive side of things. To be 100% clear, and I'm happy to share how I was able to jump this up, but I had no clue that you could even start your own business, be this thing called an entrepreneur, until I was 40 years old. I grew up in a blue-collar household where, you went and got a job and you worked for somebody else. And all the more reasons for shows like this to go louder, because I literally had no idea that I should be looking for something additional other than a job, and every job I took because it was right in front of me. I never said, okay, what career path do I really want to go on? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? It was get a job, pay the bills. And so it took, a series of events before I understood that you could do this thing on your own, get out, build your own business and the likes. I mean, I've always been somewhat tenacious in, doing things and getting things, but it seriously took me turning 40 and hearing guys like Gary Vee and Tim Ferriss and freaking even Joe Rogan, some gals like Jen Sincero talking about this whole idea if you could be an entrepreneur, you could do the likes, and then a falling out with a business partner before I finally decided, okay, it's time to give life a go on my own terms. So I think, unfortunately, we're still battling a world of ignorance. Unless you look at the youth. I mean, the kids coming up behind us, man, I'm fascinated by, because people are worried about the Great Resignation. I'm getting ready to laugh at I'm never going to apply to work for your company, because these kids aren't looking for these Fortune 500 jobs. They're downsizing to smaller houses. They're getting away from less stuff. And I'm curious to see what happens to our economy when none of these kids go to work for these bigger companies. So I'm really interested to see how that all plays out. But I think we're still battling a massive world of ignorance on, you could do things like this.
You said something really cool there that I think is important. I'm a little bit younger than you, but not that much. And for my generation, there were 2 groups of my friends. I had my blue collar friends who they got a job right out of high school. And then I'm from Tennessee, so a lot of my friends went into the military. And then the other group is your parents tell you college solves all problems.
Right.
And it's kind of the same thing, right? It's like you look for a boss who's going to take care of you. I think there's this mindset, and it maybe was truer before when there was a lot of manufacturing, and like 50 or 60 years ago, there were all these jobs where you could work in your town. You would have a factory, you'd have a job, everyone kind of worked there, and you could own a house, own a car, and have a good life working minimum wage. Whereas now it's kind of exploded, and it's not really, not very survivable, unfortunately. What I find interesting sometimes is the beliefs are always a generation behind. So you have one group of people, my parents were of this group, they were like, college is going to solve all your problems. I went to college. As soon as I graduated, I went there, because they tell you, oh, everyone gets a job when they get out of college. I went to that department. I said, hey guys, I did it. I graduated. Let's get a job. And they were like, oh, here's a link to, at the time, it was the hot one, monster.com. That's all they did for me. And I was like, wait, what? I don't know how to write a resume, right? I'll tell you this. Here's a secret about me. My resume had a misspelling on it for 9 years. Like that was in education and teaching. Like I didn't catch it until I redid my entire resume. I think at 29 I caught it. So my resume, if you look at it now, like how it was written out, it might as well have been in crayon because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have a template. It's the same thing. But one thing I noticed, my friends who went to the military, my friends started their own jobs, and my friends had tough jobs. One of my best friends, right out of high school, into a slaughterhouse. He was like killing 1,000 pigs a day. I was like, that is I couldn't do it. That's a tough job, but it forces this maturity into you. And you talk about younger generation where my friends who didn't go to college, they knew they were men and women. They felt that sense of adulthood right out the gate because they were responsible for all these things. I got to get an apartment. Their parents didn't have money to give them, right? Whereas my group, softer group, you go to college, you're like, oh, if I make a mistake, I'll just whatever, right? And you kind of, or you get the group of people that go to college and start getting credit cards because they think it's not real because they haven't learned about money. So it's very interesting to me. I think that we're starting to have more of a generation of believing in entrepreneurship, and I'm really fascinated by that. But I do think there's just so much. We believe in institutions, like we believe, oh, your boss cares about you, that they'll do forever for you. And what do people find out over the last 2 years? If it's you or your manager, you're gone. Your manager, same thing for me. I have employees, but if one of my kids is sick, I'll fire an employee and rededicate their salary to one of my kids. I just will. And everyone is like that. So how do you
It was funny, just to that point. I was talking to a buddy over the weekend, and he works for a Fortune 100, and he's middle management trying to figure things out. And he's like, it's so funny. He goes, I'm really only doing half of what I should be because my boss is so overwhelmed that she can't do or hold me accountable to the things I need to. And if she marks me bad during the reviews and stuff, it makes it look like she's not doing her job, which in turn below me, they're not doing everything to the team and I can't reprimand them because, it looks like I'm not doing my job. So it's funny this time we're living in where because a lot of people are leaving corporate, a lot of people are figuring out what they want to be when they grow up, that the infrastructures are going to really struggle as we continue to move forward. It's once again, it's going to be fascinating to continue to watch.
So people seeing kind of all these things happening, how can we prepare our kids for the new future or to start to think about entrepreneurship for people who thought of it for the first time? Even for me, I think then the first thought for many people in corporate is, how can I turn my job into my career? Where you start thinking about like no one ever works on their resume until they get fired. No one ever does networking until they get fired. You can always tell when someone's lost their job because their LinkedIn gets really active. Like they update their LinkedIn is like, it's too late because it's got that smell of desperation to it. Unfortunately, it's kind of like when I was younger, if I had a girlfriend, everyone's interested. As soon as I'm single, no one's interested because he stinks of desperation again. Right. It's that same thing with careers where how can people, I guess it's kind of, maybe the word I'm looking for is personal responsibility, or going, oh, you know what? Maybe it's the idea that to even realize I have the ability to affect my results. I have the ability to pursue other jobs. I don't have to wait till I get fired to try and get a higher position in another career. So do you think there's something that people can activate in themselves earlier? Because I'm the same way. I didn't start my big thing until I got fired from my dream job. I got fired in a snowstorm and I was like, all right, I don't want this again. It took a real kick for me. Is there a way for people to light that fire without kind of having an inciting event?
Everything's a choice. So, a lot of it is choosing to get in the game. I know for me, I did have the big event, but the conversation I had with myself in my truck at one point, as I looked in the rearview mirror, is, dude, you got two choices. You either get okay with life and be comfortable with this lifestyle, or you get in the game. And I chose to get in the game. But I think the biggest thing that holds people back is they don't know what they would do if they didn't have this thing. They've never explored life enough. They've never tried enough new things. They've never, I think if you ask a lot of people even what their hobby is, they'll tell you they don't really have one. It's watching TV or something. So I think a lot of this is learning to just explore the world around you. And I tell a lot of people, I'm like, what was fun as a kid? What did you do as a kid that you really just had a good time with? And I'm not a big believer in turning your passion into business, because that usually ruins your passion. But I am a big believer in getting passionate about what you do. And so I would tell people first and foremost to start exploring, start trying, start, messing with things and seeing if it was going to be fun. But that mental head trash of, oh, but I got a family to support, I got kids to support, I have a house, I have vehicles, is all bull crap. It's just a crappy excuse to not get in the game and do something with your life. And people give me hell over me talking like that, but it's the truth. I mean, you can't use your house and your kids as your excuse not to get in this game and do something. You know, the freedom that comes from discovering yourself on a journey of going through and building your own thing is a pretty cool process. And you're going to find out what you're made of building a business. But man, try something, do anything, and just start screwing things up with the intent of learning by screwing it up. And you'll start figuring a lot of things out.
As we get older, there's more and more reasons for inaction, right? When I was 20, I didn't care, right? I'll try anything. I don't mind. I'll travel the country, follow a band. But as you get older, you have a job, you have a mortgage, you have a car, second car, family, health insurance, all these things that we call them benefits, but they seem to create like a gilded cage. Something my family went through recently. We don't own our home.
Yeah.
For a very specific reason. We actually moved homes in December. Our house was destroyed in a typhoon. And a few months before, the landlord's like, do you want to buy the house? And we were thinking about it. And the house got destroyed. Nightmare scenario. Worst thing ever happened to me. But I was like, thank God we're renting. We're out of here. Right? They were like, oh, we decided to let you out of the lease. Right. I was like, guys, that's not even a conversation I would ever have.
There's no lease. There's no house left.
You can't say we have to pay the same rent for a third of the house. The top 2 floors gone. But that's based on where I live. It's very tactical. Obviously, for most people, like buying a house becomes like a major, that's the dream. But then they spend 30 years afterwards working towards owning the house. And then now they've come out with a 50-year mortgage that your kids can pay off, which is really exciting. Because my dream has always been to leave my kids debt. Debt. And a house they don't want to live in. It doesn't matter. Very few kids want to take over their parents' house and move into their parents' bedroom, which I get. I don't want to move into my parents had a great house, but I wouldn't want to live there. So I think that we end up imprisoning ourselves because we're told all of these things. And the thing that I grew up in is if you do really good in grammar school, you get into good middle school. Do good in middle school, get to a good high school. Good high school, get to a good college. Get to a good college, good graduate school. Get to a good graduate school. You get a cubicle. Keep working in a cubicle, and eventually you get a window. Right. Do really good, and you get 2 windows. And the things we're offered as rewards are terrible. If I work 30 years, I can have 2 windows at work. Wow. Whereas if you told that someone at the beginning, and it's this, we get trapped in these cycles, and then we're so afraid to break out. And that's really kind of this. It was this.
Well, I mean, you put one more layer on that. Now not only do you get the 2 windows, now you get to retire and supposedly do nothing with your life and then get completely miserable and die because now you have no purpose to drive because your entire purpose and drive was that job you worked for 30 years. You know, you have no meaning in life to show up anymore.
I think you're exactly right. That's always been my fear is the person who you're waiting for your golden years and then you die right after the year after you retire. I see that so much, even with people like, I remember Tom Petty recently died and last thing he said, he goes, I'm going to stop touring. I want to spend more time with my grandkids. Dead 3 months later. And it's like, that's my fear as a father is to miss an event in my kids' lives. I work from home. We're very lucky that a kid hasn't busted in here screaming. Because 2 times in the last hour, someone's come in here screaming because, had a fight. For kids, everything's a really big deal. That's what I always want to be here for. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss a first step. I don't want to miss a first bad word. I was there for both my kids to get their Taekwondo yellow belts when at 5 and 9 years old. Like exciting moment. I don't want to miss any of that. But we can get pulled into this idea of I have to suffer. This is a big American concept. You have to suffer so that when you succeed, it's worth more. Like there's this idea that the more it hurts, right? Like we're a generation now where everyone is really into Navy SEALs. Every TV show is written by a Navy SEAL. Every book is by a Navy SEAL. I know how Marines feel about that. But the more the boot camp sucks, right? The better the thing on the other side is. And we think that applies to every area of life, as opposed to that's a very specific career thing, right? I don't think that you need it like, oh, you know why he's a good teacher? Suffered. Been through some real tough stuff. Like, I don't know that like, oh, he's a really good bartender because he got beat up a lot as a kid. I don't think we always need an underdog story. And that's another thing I think holds people back. They're like, oh, I need to suffer before I deserve the rewards. Like there's this feeling of deserve. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. But I think people don't understand they already have their underdog story because, like Ed Milet, recently came out with a book that's called The One Thing, and I haven't read it, but I heard an interview he did that in every generation, there's that one person. In every family, there's that one person in the generation that breaks the mold and changes the trajectory of the families. And I think that's the moment of time most of us are trying to live in, is we realize that we are the ones for our families to break the traditional mold and do something with our lives. And I think that most people have been indoctrinated by how we're brought up through the school systems, how we're brought up through, life in general, that we bought the stories that everybody told us. And because we've not looked at life through any other eyes, we're in a state of we're doing out of ignorance sometimes and continue to move forward. And I think that there's a lot of things that get thrown on top of that, the keeping up with the Joneses, the debts that we continue to put ourselves in, and the different things that reinforce this mediocre life of not going after it and doing something bigger for ourselves. But I also think that, people haven't actually, look themselves in a mirror and be proud of what they've done and realize that they have their own freaking underdog story, that wherever they came from is an underdog story, because the world doesn't need you to be successful. The world needs you to show up, pay your bills, pay your taxes, and, show up the next day for work. Only you need to find your own personal success. So, and once you understand that the world really doesn't give a crap about you, nobody's even thinking about you, that it's you against yourself. And once you start looking at that battle and get, into the game of actually liking the person who looks you back in the mirror, then that's when you start living life. That's when you start figuring things out. And that's when life gets a whole lot of damn fun.
There's a lot of promises, and I see this all the time, and this is the challenge. In order to sell a course or a training, how to build online business, there's the promise that it will be easy. When I started, it used to every sales video said, push a button on the box, you make millions of dollars.
I bought into the same crap.
And the problem is that's the only way to get people to sell. It's like this. You have to say that in order to give people, you have to give people to buy what they want, to give them what they need.
Yep.
And that's always been a struggle in my business, but it leaves people thinking that working for yourself is easy. And so there's two reasons I think most people fail in the modern generation of online businesses. The first is distraction, which we'll get to in a moment as we talk about your book. And the other is thinking that it will be too easy, not wanting to put in the grind. So I've been doing this since February of 2010 when I lost my jobs. I work 7 days a week. I remember my dad a couple of years ago said, hey, you know what? Don't work more than 6.5 days a week. I was like, man, from one workaholic to another. He's like, take a half day off every week. Most people are like working 40 hours a week. He's like, you can have 4 hours off a week. It is this, I love what I do and I have an amazing life, but people always think that success, wherever you come from, like, oh, it comes from like luck. A lot of people think it's luck, or they think that, some things were handed to you, or that you, like the 4 hour work week is such a lie. He's not working 4 hours a week.
Agreed.
It's a cool dream.
Great title.
It's a brilliant title. And the real secret is the grind. So how can...
I want to challenge the grind mentality, and here's why. I want to punch the person in the face that said, do what you love and never work a day in your life. I think that guy's an absolute moron, because I'm doing what I love, but I have never worked harder in my damn life, right? And, here's the difference is I don't think it's actually a grind. I think it's doing what needs to get done to get where you want to go. If it's a grind, if it feels like a grind, you're playing the game wrong. I have a lot of fun doing what I'm doing. I love coming and doing these interviews. I love working the long days. I love getting up on the weekends and still working on the business. I'm still working my butt off, but I don't feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends, even though, I'm putting in a crap ton of hours. So I want to get away from the grind mentality somewhat, because people hear grind and they're like, ooh, I don't want to do that, because that feels like hard work. It doesn't really feel like hard work. It's just a lot of work, that you're going to continue to do.
Okay. So yeah, maybe it's just a term usage, because we're exactly the same. I like what I do. My problem is not that I have to work more hours to make more money. The problem is I like what I'm doing so much. If I don't pay attention, I'll work 12 hours straight. And that's kind of the thing. But you're exactly right. But there's kind of the two ends of the spectrum, right? Oh, I don't want to work for myself because I have to do horrible things, work really hard at long hours doing something I hate. Or there's like, Well, I just push a button and a business happens. And it's the two misconceptions. We have to get to kind of the middle, which is finding the right thing and then sticking with it.
Yeah,
and
because
being like, oh,
exactly. Most people, man, they 100%, are try something. Like, let's say that they're decide one day that they're going to be a on-stage speaker. So they go down that path. Now I'm going to be a speaker. Well, then they realize all the research they got to do. Then they got to realize all the reaching out they got to do and how much work it is to become a professional speaker. So they go, you know what? Instead of being a speaker, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. So then they start creating a video here, video there. They realize, holy crap, how much work it is to create a video, edit a video. Then you got to market the thing. They're like, you know what? It's not YouTube. I'm going to start a blog because the blog's going to be the thing. Then they start writing and they're trying to remember what to write. And they go down this path and they realize how hard this is going to be. They're like, okay, so I'm going to start a podcast. And then they start a podcast. They go and then all of a sudden they get to the point. And every time they get to the point where they may start breaking through and learning something and actually doing something and growing, they pivot and go try something else because, as to your point, we were raised in a world that it's supposed to be easy. Hit the easy button, ding, it's done. The microwave business. And, it's the people that actually find success in building a business are as ones that are so damn crazy that we keep pushing through, and other people, logic may say, throw in the damn towel because it's too damn hard. The rest of us pushed on through, and that's where we started achieving and finding success.
Yeah, that goes right into what I was talking about, which is the focus thing, which is where I think the big challenge is that most online business models work, but you have to stick with them for a while. Like YouTube, yeah. Everyone thinks, oh, I just have to make the video, the least important part. Like when I became an author and started writing books, I discovered your job starts when you hit publish. That's not the end of the work. That's the beginning.
Thank you for saying that.
Because you have to market it. You have to sell it. You have to do, and that's a lot of very different things. So it's the people that upload a book and go, okay, Amazon, start sending me my money. Just back up the money truck. That's what so many people think. They go, I just have to write the great American novel. And okay, awesome. Love to see that happen. No one buys that anymore. What people buy is like summer serial killer books, but back the money truck up. And it's like, I wish stories. Yeah. I wish it was that easy, but I know people. I know someone who that's their market. You know why they make money with vampire love stories? Their book has 70 books in the series.
Yes.
That's even for authors. It's like, yeah, Harry Potter's great. She also wrote 9 of them, right? Or maybe the last one counts as 1 book or counts as 2 and maybe you think it's 8 or 7, whatever. But she wrote a bunch of them and they're all really long. There's even in fiction where people go, oh, you just need to hit it out of the park. No, you got to write a lot of words and you got to write a lot of books no one likes to get to the one that's the winner. It's that I think focus is the biggest challenge for people. Now, it can be like you said, where people try a business model, then it gets hard, they move on. Some people, they cycle, they buy every single course. I had this friend, I walked into a second bedroom and it was just covered in DVDs and infomercial exercise equipment. All of it was still shrink wrapped. And I was like, wow, you have every piece of this room is full of knowledge. Just remind me of the library at Alexandria. It was all DVDs. Right. It was about 12 or 15 years ago, all unopened. And it was all these crazy, every infomercial you'd ever seen. If you want to learn about Reiki healing or weight loss or get a 6-pack abs or get women to fall in love with you or be more confident or start any type of business, it was all in there and it was all piled. It was like somebody just dumped it out of a dump truck. And I was like, how much did all this stuff cost? He's like, I don't know, $65,000, $75,000. And I was like, whoa, all unopened.
Wow.
All just unopened. I was like, this is why you don't have a bed in the second bedroom. You just need room to make this as a pile. And I remember that. And there's the thing, and I call it shiny object syndrome, which is where you don't even implement the business. You see an idea, you buy it. And before you start it, or maybe you watch the first video of the lesson, you go, oh, here's a new one. And it's a lack of focus. I think it kind of ties into, the same thing. I put in the hours every day, and often the things I need to work on for the business are not always what I want to do. A lot of times it is, but sometimes like, no, this has to get done first. Even though it's not the most fun task for today, this has to get accomplished before I do the fun stuff. And the focus, and you talk about this in your book. What do you teach about focus? How can people start to improve their focusing skills?
Yeah, so, it's the interesting thing. For me, a lot of the book was written on for people to be able to go through the chaos of building a business to actually getting to business growth so they can ultimately scale. And the thing for me is, when you start a business, there's nobody really out there teaching you how to go from point A to point B. So for a lot of us, as we're building a business, there's a series of just trying to figure things out, and we put ourselves on an island. And I'm 100% guilty of buying the courses and, trying to do all the things to find somewhat a resemblance of a business out there. And for me, focused, came from proactively staying in one direction and doing the things that would directly impact the bottom line of my business so I could move forward in the right direction. But the overall idea is, we are all somewhat the dog from Up, and we're constantly squirreling out on different things and trying new things. I think the ability to focus comes from getting to that moment of learning. I mean, we have a code in our company that says go break things. I cleaned it up for your show because it doesn't actually say that. It uses a lot stronger terminology, but go break things. And when we say that, it's go try something new, understanding that things are going to screw up and break, but you're going to learn from that moment. And it's the learning from that moment that creates the focus and allows you to actually go forward and try the thing. And I think most people just haven't put in the work to actually try the thing they're going back to. They're just looking for your easy button.
I think that's really powerful advice. I want to appreciate you for giving me so much time. Where can people connect with you to find out more about you online? What's the best place to find you where they can find out about your books and your summits and your conferences and really what you're doing to help people?
Yeah, so there's two ways. Go to DonnieBolvin.com, DONNIE, B as in boy, OI, V as in Victor, IN.com. Or they can text the word success to 817-318-6030, and we'll send them back all of our contact information and details. And guys, do me a quick favor. If you got any tips or tricks out of this episode, do Jonathan a favor and share this out with one other person. I can tell you have my own podcast. One of the toughest things is growing and building your audience. So do him a favor. If you get any value, share this with just one person that could benefit from listening to a show.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Always trying to take the show and everything I do to the next level. Really appreciate your time, Donnie. Thank you so much for being here. It was really amazing. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Serve Master podcast. We give away amazing business bestsellers every single month. Head over to servemaster.com/free books to see what we're giving away this month.